Did you know that 58,500 homes burn down every year and that more than 3,000 Americans die from it? From 2015 to 2019, a study was conducted by the National Fire Protection Association that stated that house fires over that period of years caused $7.3 billion to be lost in direct property damage. $7.3 billion lost due to house fires in a 4-year period of time is a lot of money. Now imagine this. A wildfire burning down more than 1,600 homes in 55 days. Imagine how much money it would cost to restore all these houses and lives that have to be rebuilt from this disaster. Believe it or not, this actually happened in our own state of Texas. The Bastrop County Complex Fire of 2011 was to this day the most destructive wildfire Texas has ever seen. And today, I'm going to tell you all about it and give you tips on how to make sure it never happens again. Bastrop is a small town in Texas, found 30 miles southeast of Austin, with an estimated population of 7,000 people in 2011 and 10,500 people in 2021. Known for its outdoor vistas, it's a very lively town with many natural beauties, such as Lake Bastrop, the Bastrop State Park, the Texas Park and Wildlife Department's paddling trails, and so much more. At their wildlife habitats, you can camp, see the stars, and go fishing. It was a normal city minding its own business until that one day on September 4, 2011, when 3 fires started. The fires began because of the powerful winds from Tropical Storm Lee crashing tree branches onto power lines. However, no one expected them to merge into one and grow into a catastrophic wildfire. The location of the 3 fires were at the middle, top, and bottom of the Bastrop State Park. The fire nearly burned the entirety of the park and the area surrounding it. People ran away from the fires, desperately trying to keep distance from the destruction coming after them. Fire trucks and helicopters were called in, rushing above to put the fire out as fast as they could. Unfortunately, that time of year was also very unlucky for Bastrop. Texas was going through, at its time, its warmest recorded summer, with an average of 86.8 degrees. And at the same time, it was also going through its driest summer, clocking at an average of 2.44 inches of rain. And if that was not enough for the city of Bastrop to handle, Tropical Storm Lee's winds just helped stoke the fire by spreading it faster. This extreme weather not only strengthened the fire, but made it harder for firefighters of the Texas Park and Wildlife Department to put out the massive fire. Firefighters from all around the country, 140 TPWD employees, and their commercial partners alike all fought the disaster. Luckily, in the end, the city of Bastrop itself did not burn. However, the entire Bastrop State Park and its surroundings were burnt. It destroyed about 1,600 homes over the course of 55 days, and 96% of the park was burned down. For specific details, it actually burned 33,089 acres of Bastrop County farmland, caused an estimated $350 million in insured property damages, killed 2 people, and injured many more. Here are more pictures of the fire. Now, you may think, oh, but it's just a fire. It didn't affect me, so why should I care? Well, think about this. Houses in Texas on the average cost about $400,000. If about 1,600 homes were burned down in a fire, if we do the math, we get about $640 million in property damages. That is a lot of money. The cost of the damage to the city is already $350 million, but adding the $640 million for the people who lost their houses, it would tally up to $990 million. Families would have also been homeless, not having anywhere to stay since their houses were burned down. The smoke from the fire also got into the air, concerning local doctors for residents' health who lived around the burnt area. The worst problem, however, since the majority of the park was burnt down, it'll take years for it to get back to its original state before the fire. In science, this is known as secondary succession, where a natural disaster affects an ecosystem, and the ecosystem has to take time to rebuild and get back to its original state. Because of the mass destruction that the fire caused, Texas Park and Wildlife Department employees estimate it will take a generation to recover. In fact, a rare endangered species called the Houston toad was nearly wiped out by this catastrophe. The fire wiped out its habitat, but fortunately, there were some still found living in different parts of Bastrop County. The fire also affected a good majority of the lost pines, which was an ecosystem of loblolly trees in the original habitat of the Houston toad. This wildfire would be considered a natural disaster because even if the fire started due to the branches knocking over power lines, mankind didn't cause the fire to directly start. It'll possibly take years for everything in Bastrop to get back to normal. Despite the massive destruction the fire caused, recovery has gone great for the county. Bastrop County was awarded a $25 million grant by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to help victims of housing, as well as assisting Bastrop to rebuild their city. Furthermore, the Bastrop County Long-Term Recovery Team was created to help people who lost their homes in the fire and those who were injured by it. Volunteers and businesses teamed up to help people who were affected by the fire by giving them relief goods and helping remove debris that was left by the fire. The most surprising method of recovery, in my opinion, however, was Texas A&M students setting up a fundraiser where they sold towels for $3 and their sales went to relief organizations for the wildfire. As for the forest itself, it is already showing signs of growth, such as shrubs like American beautyberry showing up and providing berries for the animals moving back into the forest. In conclusion, the secondary succession has been going well, with trees and animals already returning to the park. No one wants another wildfire to happen. Even if we don't live in a region where there is much vegetation that could start a wildfire, we always need to be alert to prevent a new fire from happening. Here are some tips to prevent fires in your own home. Keep anything that can catch fire away from the stove, space heater, or fireplace. It could accidentally light on fire. Install smoke alarms in your household and make sure they work. They can detect smoke from a fire and warn us. Have a fire extinguisher in your house and put them in easily accessible places. In case a fire breaks out, use it to put out the fire. Stay in the kitchen while you're cooking. Your food could easily burn without supervision. If you're not at home and are, however, near a forest camping or doing a similar activity, I also have tips for you. Keep sparks away from dry vegetation. It could easily drift and start a fire. Don't do any activities with fire when it's hot, dry, and windy. For obvious reasons, the fire could spread extremely fast. Build campfires in an open location and far away from flammables. Flammables only help fuel the fire. Do not leave the fire unattended and douse the fire when you're done. With proper supervision, the fire could spread fast. The Bastrop fire couldn't have been prevented because of the tropical storm at the time, but you can take steps to make sure another fire doesn't break out. There's always steps that could have been taken to prevent a fire. Example, they could have taken out the branches before it fell on the power lines, but it's too late to do anything about it now. We can't go in the past and stop the fire from happening, but we can always make sure now that a fire of that scale never happens again. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.